Hi, and welcome back to another AnyRPG Development Livestream. In this video series, you can watch the live development of the AnyRPG Engine, a free and open source role-playing game engine designed in Unity and written in C#. If you don't already have a copy of AnyRPG, you can pick one up from anyrpg.org/downloads in both Unity package and source code format. You can also find A Lost Soul, the free playable game that I work on in these episodes, available for download at the same page. In this episode, I will be extending the Footstep system that we added in the last episode. And now that we have footsteps included with the engine and our character can have footsteps, I think it would be really cool to actually have those footsteps accurately reflect the environment that the character is in. So right now the character has a generic set of footsteps, and we'll just jump into the game and play those here for a second, and then we will make some overrides that make the footsteps match more closely to the environment. So right here, if my character runs around, you can hear footsteps, but these footsteps are kind of hard, like the character's on a hard surface. So I'd like to add some grass footsteps, and similarly, if we head over to this side of the level, we can find a pool of water, and if we go into the pool, we just keep making this thudding sound like we're running around and nothing's happening. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to save the game right here, and we can exit out now, and we will add an override area that allows us to override the footsteps when we're in the water, and we will add overrides to the zones that allow us to add footsteps for an entire zone. For example, if you're in a snow zone, then your default footsteps should be snow. So let's go ahead and do that. We will need somewhere to store the overrides, and we'll need a way to retrieve them. So let's start with the zone, because we already have those. Those are called scene nodes, and we have Birch Grove is the scene that we're in right now. So we have our Birch Grove scene node. It's got some ambient music profile, background music profile. So this is perfect. We can just add in some audio stuff right here, including the movement sound loop and the movement hit sound. And the reason I'm making those names generic is because maybe you have a game where you're driving vehicles around, and so it should be like the sound of the engine and the tires, or something like that, whatever. So let's go ahead and add those to the scene node. We'll open up our scene node and find the music section here, and what I want to do is just add some headers to this. So this header up here, we'll separate it from the base class describable resource, and we'll call this scene. And then here we'll have sounds. So header, I don't know, why don't we just call it audio? That'll be good enough. And then we will need 2 audio profiles. So we will want the movement loop profile, and I'll call this one the real movement loop profile, and in fact I'll call this one actually the movement loop profile name, and then that one can just be called the movement loop profile. Okay, and then we'll adjust the tooltip on this to say this audio will override the movement sound loop for a character in this zone. And we'll make the second one, and this is called the movement hit profile name, and the movement hit profile. This audio will override the movement hit. Just put Footstep in bracket there to make it clear. Sound for a character in this zone. And then what we'll want to do is expose these two things, so quick actions and refactoring encapsulate field, and then quick actions and refactoring encapsulate field there. Okay, good. So now we have a way to get at them. And what let's see, what do we want to do here? That's good enough for this, actually. So now we want to go to the character unit and add a way to grab the overrides. So we'll open up our character unit class. We'll just let Unity compile here for a sec. That's probably what's going on there. And grab the, and actually, you know what? We're in Birch Grove, so movement loop profile name and movement hit profile name. So we're using movement hit right now, and we're using one called Footstep hits. Let's make another one. We'll call this Footstep grass hits. So Footstep grass hits audio. And I'll just set the number of audio clips down to 0, lock the inspector, search for Footstep. Now I don't have grass, but I do have these snow footsteps, which if you use your imagination just a little bit, you can kind of sound like grass. So let's just take a listen to those here for a second, and we'll see which ones will be good to use. And which set did I get this from? I got this from Winter Zone Mini. Let's just pop open to the asset store here and see if I can find Winter Zone Mini. There it is, Winter Zone Mini, free asset on the asset store. So this has some snow footstep sounds in it. And let's just play those. We'll unlock the inspector here. Snow 01. Let me just check the audio, make sure that this will come through so you can hear it. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So first one, second one. So I think 4 and 5 kind of sound like snow. Definitely. 3, 2, and 1, to me, if you use your imagination, kind of sounds like you're walking like through grass, maybe. So maybe we'll use like 1, 2, and 3 or something like that. Maybe even like 4. Doesn't have to be perfect, just want it to sound different than our regular footsteps, which are on a lot harder ground. Okay, so that's good enough then. What we'll do is we now have footsteps audio and footstep grass hits audio. So we will use footstep grass hits in Birch Grove. So we'll go to Birch Grove scene node and add in, under the hit profile, footstep grass hits. And next we will want to override those in our character. So we'll go to the character unit, and we need to add some new fields here. So let's make a public, what should this be? This should be an audio profile, and we'll call it movement loop profile, because that's pretty much the same thing we called it in the scene node. And it's just going to be a get, and by default we'll return null, and then we'll add another audio profile, the movement hit profile, and by default we will just return null. Okay, now we'll override it with the scene node. So let's see, I think it's level manager.myInstance get active scene node dot, and we want the loop, movement loop profile does not equal null, then return the movement loop profile. We'll do the same thing for the movement hit profile. And that should be good. So next we need a way to actually access these. So when our character is running, there are two places where we grab these values. In the player controller right here, we grab the movement audio profile, audio clip. So let's change that up. Let's actually have the character unit respond with its current movement loop, and then we'll just move this value over there. So we'll get rid of that and do base character dot character unit dot movement loop profile dot audio clip. All right, good. So next thing, we'll basically just return that. And then we pretty much don't have to return null. However, I suppose it would be good if we checked if that stuff actually was not null first. So what we can do is if base character does not equal null and base character dot my unit profile does not equal null and base character dot my unit profile dot movement audio profiles does not equal null, and the count is greater than 0, then it's safe to return that value, otherwise return null. Okay, so now we will have the scene overriding the base character's regular movement loop. So next we'll need to deal with the hit version of this. Just a second. We got movement loop profile on the character unit. Right, that's the right one. Okay, good. So the hit version of this is in the character animation event receiver, and we are grabbing basically the exact same thing here, except for instead of grabbing audio clip, we're just grabbing audio clips. So instead of that, we will grab character unit dot movement hit profile dot audio clips. And here we'll have to check for character unit dot movement hit profile dot audio clips. here, we should be checking that character unit dot movement hit profile does not equal null. And if that's the case, then because we don't need to go through that whole chain of events from unit profile to audio profiles, we can remove those checks. And just substitute that with movement hit profile equals null, or movement hit profile dot audio clips dot count equals 0, or and actually, funny enough, we actually do need to make sure that the base character and the unit profile aren't null, because we need to not have those things return null references right there when we try to grab that. So in that case, I'm just going to hit Control Z and back up and bring all that stuff back. Now we do want to make sure, of course, that the movement hit profile isn't actually null, but if character unit base character does not equal null, okay, so these conditions right here that deal with the movement audio profiles can be removed and replaced with movement hit profile equals null. Okay, that'll work. Now we're making sure that that's not null before we check for that value, and we're checking that this isn't null before we reference it down here. And actually, we actually do need to check the clip count too. Okay, so put that back there. Movement hit profile equals null, or movement hit profile dot audio clips. I think we want to make sure that that's not null too. Or character unit dot movement hit profile dot audio clips dot count equals 0. Okay, that should do it. So now we can go back to the character unit and can return this in the movement hit profile because it was the exact same thing. Whether or not it's actually grabbed is based on whether or not your character is using hit steps or not. So that should work. Let's save that. Let it compile. Hopefully there's no errors. Okay, and let's go try it out. Oh, you know what? There's one. This isn't going to work, and I have to go make a reference first. So what we need to do is where we're actually grabbing that, which is in the Birch Grove scene node. We need to get references to these the same way we get references to these guys here, and that's done down in setup scriptable objects. So if and the variable we're looking for right here is movement loop profile name, does not equal null, and our movement loop profile name isn't string.empty, then we will get the audio profile from it. We will rename this variable here to TMP movement loop, and then we will set the movement loop profile equal to the TMP movement loop. Otherwise, and this is in actually a scene node, then we could not find audio profile, movement loop profile name, and this real ambient music profile thing is supposed to go down there. Okay. And then let's do the same thing for the movement hit. So if the movement hit profile name does not equal null and does not equal string.empty, then we'll grab it and we will rename this to TMP movement hit, and we will set the movement hit profile equal to that. Otherwise couldn't find audio profile, movement hit profile name. And because we're in a scene node, for this to be accurate, these should both say scene node as well. Good. So we'll save that, and then now hopefully we should have references to the profiles, and we should be able to pick up some grass or snow sounds on our character. There we go. So now my character's running around in the snow. Even though it's actually grass, but this is totally awesome. Okay, next up, water. So water's going to be a different type of thing. We're going to have to create a new class for this. And what I want to do basically is, if you look at the scene, let's just go find that puddle of water where the character is. It's over here. And you can see that basically the water is a flat plane like this that just sort of cuts through the landscape. So what we'll do is we will set up basically a box that is the exact same size as the water, and we will extend that box downwards from the surface of the water to like just underneath the ground, like right here. And we'll put a trigger and a collider on that box, and then basically when you're inside it, it will override your footstep sound and replace it with something else. So let's go ahead and do that. To do that, I want to create a new class called Footstep Area. And let's see where we want to put that. This is going to go in the engine, and I think this is the perfect spot. Object controllers, we've already got an environmental effect area. This is what we can use to make like poison clouds or like really deep water that you like drown when you go in it or something. And we'll add the footstep area. You know what? Let's even make that better. Let's make that the movement sound area. Because who knows, maybe you're driving a vehicle and you have like a pavement and then you go off-road and then you should have gravel sounds. So let's make it generic enough that we can use it for all that kind of stuff. And this is just going to be basically a mono behavior. So movement sound area is going to inherit from mono behavior and does not implement any interfaces. And let's see, do I actually even need anything here? I don't need any of this stuff except for maybe set up scriptable objects. Maybe awake. I do want a reference to the box collider. Get rid of, you know what? Okay, let's just start here. So what's the first property we want? The first property we want is the same properties that we put on the scene node. In fact, we'll just go copy all that stuff over from the scene node. So we want the audio profiles. We'll put a header audio. This is a movement sound area, so this is the only header, but why not? Audio. And copy that stuff in here. Then we don't need any of this other stuff right here. Okay. And on awake, we want to get component references and set up scriptable objects. We get a reference to the box collider. That's good. We don't have a fixed update method because there's no loop in here. We don't perform ability effects. We get valid targets. I don't think we need that. I'm just going to leave it for now. Set up scriptable objects we will keep, and we'll just go down and grab the stuff from the scene node here. So movement loop profile and movement hit profile. We'll strip this stuff out of our setup scriptable objects and we'll make the references there. Now this is a movement sound area, so we'll just change that, and that looks good. Next, we will want to make a way for this thing to respond. So we need an on trigger enter, and I've got two red marks right here. What's going on? We don't have a my display name. That's because this for the movement sound area should say GameObject.name, because we're not dealing with a resource in this case, and resources have display names. Okay, so that's good, and let's see, on trigger enter, and we'll need on trigger exit as well. And what we want to do is we want to perform a check against the collider, and we want to grab its game object, and we want to check if it has a character unit. What I want to do is actually, you know what? No, that's totally fine. Okay, so I do want to reference to a movement sound area here. So we'll have a private movement sound area, movement sound area. Used to track the current movement sound overrides. And then what we'll want to do is, before we check the scene node, we'll check the more specific thing. So basically the order of movement sound overrides is current movement sound override area, active scene node, and then character default. So if our movement sound area does not equal null, and our movement sound area dot movement loop profile does not equal null, and I don't think I exposed that yet, so we will go ahead and expose that. Quick actions and refactoring, encapsulate field, and do the same thing for the hit profile, quick actions and refactoring, and encapsulate field, and then we have access to it. So here we'll just grab movement sound area and return movement loop profile. Okay, good. And then we will do the exact same thing down here for the hit profile. So if our movement hit profile does not equal null, return the movement hit profile. Okay, that's good. Now all we have to do is have a way to set that. So what we will do is make some methods for that. So public void set movement sound area, and we will accept a movement sound area, and if movement sound area does not equal, no, actually we want that. If movement sound area does not equal this dot movement sound area, then this dot movement sound area equals movement sound area. And we should have a public void unset movement sound area, and in fact I'll just copy this code here. And we're going to pass in the movement sound area, because if movement sound area equals this dot movement sound area, then this dot movement sound area equals null. So the reason that I'm doing it this way rather than just unsetting it directly is because if you have like overlapping movement sound areas in a level, then if you pass from one to another, the new one, let's see, will overwrite. But then when you leave the old one, you don't want your sound to just go back to normal. You want the one that you're currently in to keep playing, so you got to make sure that it wasn't like switched and there was no overlap, because it is potential that people could do that in their level design. So this should prevent that from happening. And now in our movement sound area, on trigger enter, what we want to do is if, I guess we need to get a reference first. So we want a reference to a character unit, and that will be other.gameObject.getComponent character unit. And if character unit does not equal null, then character unit dot set movement sound area to this. And on trigger exit, we want to do the exact same thing, except for we will call unset movement sound area this. And I think that's pretty much all we need out of the movement sound area. So let's go back to the console. Everything looks good there. Okay, so next what we want to do is we want to actually create the movement sound area object in the level, but first we need some footsteps to actually send into it. And we have a splash sound water splash right here. And I think what I'd like to do is maybe make like a couple of slightly randomized versions of that, so we can have like maybe a couple of different water splashes. And I grabbed them actually from this spell right here. It's basically like the spot starting right about here. I'll just play that. So we can start that splash at different spots, and it actually makes it sound a lot different. So what we'll do is we'll right click on that and we'll go show and explorer, and then we will right click on it in Explorer and open it with let's just see if I can find it here. It's not finding Audacity. And there's Audacity. Okay. All right, there we go. So let's just stick like a line right there and press play. And then let's stick another one like right here. Yeah, see how that sounds like a lot smaller, right? I wonder, can we just play like this middle bit right here? Yeah. Okay, so we've got a couple of different choices. Let's see. If we start back here, I think this is too early. Yeah. What about there? Okay, how about here? Okay, I like this. So this is long splash right here. So let's take all that right to the end and Control C, Control N, Control V, and export this one as sound long splash .og. Okay, now let's zoom in just a little bit here and start it from like right here and just test that. Okay, how about here? That's nice. And how about here? Yeah. Okay, so we will have, I should have just called these like splash 1 and splash 2. In fact, I'm going to do this. So what we'll do is we'll basically take like this last part right here. Actually, you know what we want? I want to do this the exact opposite way. Okay. I want to remove the first part. Oh, look at that. We have more back there. Okay. Let's do this again. This is, starting from here is like splash 2. Starting from here can be like splash 3. And then maybe like splash 4. And then like 5, I guess. So just let me make sure I don't have anywhere else to go over there. Good. So we'll get rid of the beginning. Control X, File, Export as OGG, Sound, and I don't see, yeah, okay, that's because I called that long splash. So this is splash 2, sound splash2.ogg. And then we'll get rid of like about that much of it. Control X, and then export that one as sound splash3.og. Get rid of like that much of it. You know what, let's just try playing it right here, just see what it sounds like. About playing it from the start. Okay, and if we play it from there, short one, okay, good. So Control X and file, export as OGG, and then this can be sound splash4.og, and then let's try it from here. Yeah, so Control X, cut all that, and export this one as sound splash5.og, and let's save that, and that should be good. That's enough sort of random splash sounds, I think. So we'll just let it import all those, and then what we want to do is we've got footsteps. So footstep, we have hits and footstep grass hits, and let's do footstep water hits audio. So we'll set that to footstep water hits audio. We'll zero that out and make sure this is footstep water hits, and close up the little icon there, and now we want to go look for our sound splash and go to that folder, and sound long splash gets changed to sound splash1. Okay, good. And then now what we can do is we can select all 5 of those, drag them over here, and now we've got our 5 water footstep sounds. And I think what I want to do is I actually want to put element 2, which is the second longest one, and swap it with element 3. So I will duplicate element 3. I will pull element 2 into that position, pull element 3 into that position. So 1, 3, 2, and then why don't we just go 4, 5, so we'll just delete number 3 there, and that should be okay. A little more random than it just getting slowly shorter. So now we have a way to set and unset them, so we just need to go create a water area and set the footstep water hits audio profile. To do that, we will go to Birch Grove and load the level up, and we'll go find the water. First, I am going to create a 3D object cube, unlock the inspector, turn its box collider into a trigger, and now I want to find the water. So let's see. I have main terrain. If I click here, I have water, and my water is a plane. So what we'll do is we'll turn this into the water footstep area, and we will take our water plane along with its dimensions, copy those, and paste them onto the water footsteps area. Now, planes by default are 10 times larger than their associated cube counterparts. So what that means is that we will want to set that to times 10 and times 10, which should give us kind of an exact overlap. Right, and now what we want to do, let's just make sure, yeah, so the plane and the water footsteps area, exactly the same size. Good. So we just basically want to move the water footsteps area down until it's at the same place as the plane. So there we go. I'll just move it up until it's like right. Just go a little bit inside the water. Perfect. Slightly under it. Okay, good. And then let's see. In terms of height, it still has a size of 1. It's kind of hard to see where it ends here. You know what? Just to be safe, why don't I give it a y value of like 2? You know what, even this thing is actually, I think it's only like half a meter deep, so I think it's totally fine. We'll just move it down a little bit more again. Let's like right about there. That looks pretty good. Okay, good. So now we have a water area, and we need to actually add a, what did we call this again? A movement sound area. And we want to uncheck the mesh renderer. And we want to add the movement hit profile name. And we called those again Footstep Water Hits Audio. So it was Footstep Water Hits because the audio is just something we add to let us know what it is among all of the other things that are named Footstep Hits. So that should be all that's required. The trigger and the movement sound area. Let's save that. And we should be able to go back to our load game manager. And let's try that out. Okay, so we'll load up our ranger. Our ranger is running on snow. And our ranger's running on water. There's something wrong here. The level of the item is default. And this is causing the Invector controller to try to run on top of the water. So we're gonna have to go fix that, and to do that we'll just basically set it to a different layer, something that's not default. So we'll take the water footsteps area and I think I'm just going to set it to water. I think that'll be okay. That's actually a layer that basically like I never use, so we'll see. I don't think that'll have any negative effects, and that's pretty accurate. It's water. That's exactly what it is realistically. So then let's go back to the load game manager and try reloading our game now and see if our Invector controller doesn't try to run over top of our water. So we'll run around on the snow. Okay, that's not bad. He did like a little hop right here. Oh, you know what? It's because there's actually like a little thing right here under the water. That's why. Okay, cool. So now we can run around in the water, and we can make splashing sounds, and then we can run around on the grass, and it's like we're running around on snow. Okay, this is really cool. Do you know what I want to do? I want to extend this even further. We have the capability to do something really awesome here. So we're going to go to the Sun Temple. Let's just save it before we go there. And so now we're probably back to default. Yeah, there we go, default. And this is perfect. So these footsteps are like great for this stone walkway. Way better. Okay, this character only has a dragon mount. So we'll get on our dragon mount. Now, I need to add footsteps to the dragon mount, but we're not going to do that in this episode. What we are going to do is we're going to add these amazing, really, really cool echo footsteps that I think are totally awesome. And I want to add them only when we're inside of the Sun Temple. So we'll get off our dragon mount here, and we'll save the game. And let's go make some really cool echoey footsteps. So to save the water one, I'm going to open up, and we've got some other footstep down here. Let's see, we got like echoing footsteps. see if I can find them. Echoing footsteps right there. Let's just open this up. Oh, and it resized the window and reset it. Okay, where were we again? We were at echoing footsteps. Echoingfootsteps.org. This is the one that we want. Okay. We'll grab these nice, really awesome echoey footsteps and let's play. There we go. Are those not the most amazing echoey footsteps you've ever heard in your life? So what I want to do is I want to make those into a series of individual footsteps. So I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to copy number 1 here, Control C, Control N, Control V, File, Export, export as OGG, and export it to sound footstep echo1.ogg. And save. Then Control X, grab from the next one, Control C, Control N, Control V, File, Export as OGG, sound footstep echo2.ogg. And then Control X, grab this one, Control C, Control N, Control V, File, Export, export as OGG, export to sound footstep echo3.ogg. And finally Control X, and we can just directly export here without copying. Export as OGG to sound footstep echo4.ogg and save. And now we can go to footstep echo, no, we can go to footstep water, hits audio, and we can Control D to duplicate it, and we can call it footstep echo hits audio, and we'll call it footstep echo hits, and then lock the inspector, set that to 0, and now we just need to look for sound footstep echo 1 through 4, select them all and drag them down into the audio clips. We will then find the Sun Temple zone, load that one up, and we'll need a different layer other than water for this one, but what I want to do is inside the main hall of this building, I want your footsteps to echo. So what can we do? We're just going to take this thing right here. We are going to copy the component. We're going to find the parent object for this, which is interior objects temple. You know what we're going to do? Instead, we're just going to make this easy. We'll close up built-in I will create a new empty. We will reset the transform on the empty, and we will call it Footstep Areas. Then under Footstep Areas, we will create a 3D object cube, and we're just gonna, like, I don't know, middle click right there and hit Control-Alt-F to move the cube into place. And that's pretty good. And we just need to set the height, I don't know, 5 meters tall. Basically, if our character ever gets out of that height, then realistically they're not on the ground and they shouldn't be echoing anyway. So that's pretty good. Okay. And then we need to set the scale on those other sides. So I don't know, 100 by 100. And let's see what that looks like. I'm just thinking right now maybe that a sphere would have been a better choice given the shape of the building. So maybe we should do that instead. Or even better, a cylinder. Because our footstep area doesn't even need a reference to the collider, so it honestly doesn't really matter what kind of collider it is. So let's do that instead. Under the footsteps area, we're going to create a 3D object, and we'll just make it a cylinder. We will copy the cube transform, go to the cylinder, paste the component values, get rid of the cube, and shrink that cylinder down 20 by 20. Too small. It's not bad though. Make it 30 by 30. Now we got the center of the room. We're not quite outside the building yet, so I think there's room. Maybe make it 35. Alright, we're not poking through quite yet, I don't think. No, we're like right to the outside wall. Okay, that's not bad, because basically, like, when you walk in, let's get inside this thing here. Yeah, so basically, when you walk in, you'll be doing your regular footsteps, but essentially anywhere else in the room, almost right up to the edges, you'll be doing echoey footsteps. You know what? Maybe we should give that like another 2 meters. As we're still not really like poking through the building yet. In fact, why don't we give it even one more? And actually, you know what? This thing is technically not like in the dead center of the temple, so why don't we fix that as well? We can move it like right here, and then it should be like right in the exact center, and then we shouldn't basically get it like poking out. Actually, you know what? Maybe that was sort of like, this looks pretty much in the center of that. Okay. And let's just go check the edges. That's pretty good. I think we got room for maybe 1 more meter. You know what? Why don't we just set it to 40 and see what happens? I actually am kind of curious, like, what it takes to get this thing to poke outside of the building. And at this point, I think actually that's fine, because maybe right here, okay, so right in that little corner right here, if you walk around, you'll get echoey footsteps. But pretty much everything else is okay. And you got to sort of like walk down the hall to the center, and then once you get in the center of the room, your footsteps will start echoing. I'm good enough with that for now. It honestly, it really doesn't need to be perfect. I'm not going to worry about irregular shapes or anything like that. So we're going to make our capsule collider into a trigger. We're going to remove our mesh renderer. We are going to set this to the Sun Temple Echo Footstep area, I guess. And we need to set the layer to something other than default. Transparent FX. I don't know if that's necessarily great. Triggers, potentially. Have interactable. I feel like I need another layer here for environment. Let's just do transparent FX for now. I don't think that's going to break anything. I'll probably look at the idea of putting an environment in at some point in the future. So now all we need to do is just wait till Unity compiles and then add on a movement sound area and give this thing the footstep echo hits. And we can save that and then go back to our load game manager. And actually, you know what? Let me just check. Yeah, this movement area here. Let me just turn that renderer on. No, you know what? That's fine because this is going like way below the level. So yeah, we're good. Okay, so yeah, good. Save that and let's go back and load the game and then go check what happens when we walk inside of the Sun Temple. Okay, so we'll open the door. Regular sound. Okay, we have an issue here. Index out of range must be non-negative. Okay, that was interesting. Let's see where that happened. I feel like maybe... I'm not sure why, actually. Let's check. So we have the footstep echo hits audio, and this has the correct amount of hits. Let's check the code that called that. Yeah. Okay, so I think what happened here is when we actually moved in between the scenes, or like, I think we were on a high index here, like 8, and then we moved into the area, and our index was now higher than the value we were searching for. So I think I'm going to perform this check twice, just because it's entirely possible for this to happen. So first we're going to check before we play it and reset it to 0 if we're larger than the index. And then we're going to increment and then check again after, because sometimes, we could have like a single audio clip, and incrementing it past anything other than 0 would require a reset as well. So let's go try that out and see if that works. So we will load up our ranger again here. And open up the door to the Sun Temple. Head inside. Oh yeah, oh my goodness. Wow. Those are some echoey footsteps. Very, very echoey. I like it. It's too bad with the Invector controller, I think there's some joystick issue where it's sending joystick input and it makes it freak out, and we can't use the walking footsteps, because it would be really great to actually like hear those in like slow motion. But it's still rad. So this is really cool. Now we can have echoey footsteps, we can have regular footsteps, we can have splashy watery footsteps, we can have like grassy footsteps. I could make like the grass area right here, and we could do like the snow again. So this is awesome. I am more than satisfied with this. So I hope you enjoyed that, and as always, if you did, don't forget to thumbs up the video, subscribe to the AnyRPG YouTube channel, or just leave a note in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.